On September 11th, US Lockheed Martin, the maker of the famous Himars rocket system, and the armaments agency of Polish Defense Ministry signed an agreement to procure and integrate Himars launchers into Polish military. It's a deal that's been in the works for a year now, but has often been interpreted as not happening due to the ludicrous number of Himars launchers requested. But now that the agreement has been signed, the whole deal is just a step away from being realized. It has to be pointed out that this is not yet the final contract, but the framework agreement that's been signed. Still, if and when the final contract is signed, Poland will be getting a staggering 486 Himars launcher loader module kits. How is that going to affect Polish military power, and how are those launchers gonna be used? For that, stay tuned. Hundreds of missile launchers can spam thousands of missiles. Defending against those is not easy, though defending against spam in inbox can be made easier than it is, courtesy of our sponsor, Incogni. I really do get frustrated with tons of spam I get. Business account, private account, you name it. It seems unavoidable. That's because email addresses get traded and sold. Data brokers are a huge industry. They aggregate all the little bits of personal info that you leave behind online and sell that data to whomever. Most of the time it's bought by advertisers. That's horrible enough. But in the extreme cases, various fraudsters can also buy your data, or even just individuals who may have had a beef with you, like after a road rage incident. Now, I could scour the internet and go from site to site asking them to remove my data, but in practice that would take years. Other option is to use a service like Incogni to do it for me automatically. I made an Incogni account and granted them the rights to contact data brokers on my behalf. Then Incogni requested they remove personal data. It also keeps me updated on the progress. It's satisfying watching this dashboard, seeing how many sites have been taken care of. Incogni repeats removal requests over the year, making sure new personal records don't pop up. Crucially, Incogni is giving Binkov viewers an exclusive offer. Use my link below the video and the code Binkov to get 60% off an annual Incogni plan. Incogni.com/Binkov. Give it a try. Welcome back. It's important to say that the Himars launcher loader module kits are not entire Himars launcher vehicles, but the launcher kits that go onto vehicles. That's because the agreement stipulates the launchers are to be integrated onto Polish-built Yelts 6x6 trucks. This image shows off nicely the current US-made launcher vehicle with Himars launcher compared to the Polish vehicle with the same launcher. First deliveries of the new system, to be called HOMAR-k in the Polish Army, are to start in 2026. The agreement says tens of thousands of rocket ammunitions will be produced. Those will not be the first Himars systems Poland will operate. In 2019, Poland bought 20 Himars systems from US. First of those were delivered earlier this year. Those cost some $400 million, while this new deal is valued roughly at some $10 billion. So if and when it all goes through, Poland will be operating 506 Himars launcher vehicles. To just show how mind-boggling that number is, France is operating 9 MRLs vehicles. Sure, each has doubled the number of missiles, but still, even before all the army cutbacks, when France ordered them at the end of the Cold War, France ordered just 57 vehicles. The UK uses some 35 MRLs vehicles. Again, double the number of missiles per vehicle, but still, it's some 7 times fewer ready-to-launch missiles and 14 times fewer vehicles. Germany, another big European military, uses 33 MRLs launchers. So, is there someone in NATO who uses more? Sort of. The US Army uses 368 Himars launchers, same ones Poland will be using, with the US Marine Corps using 47 more. So Polish plans outnumber even the US current numbers. But the Marines are in the process of getting more Himars launchers. They will increase the number of rocket artillery batteries from 7 to 21. So in the near future, sort of around the time when Poland might start getting their local assembled Himars, the Marines might be using some 150 or so launchers in total. That would get the US to a grand total very similar to Polish one. when it comes to Himars, with perhaps just a few systems more. The US Army is also eyeing increasing their numbers, likely at the cost of other systems, as the Army currently also operates some 226 MRLs systems. A year ago, the Army issued a request for information to companies asking who can produce up to 480 Himars systems up to the year 2028. That doesn't mean the Army intends to procure that many, but it does show interest in flexibility to get many new systems on a relatively short notice. For now, including the MRLs systems, the US Army and the Marines combined can be estimated to be aiming at fielding 740 to 900 rocket artillery launchers with a total potential of up to 5,400 ready-to-launch missiles. So the US military is huge, and it's no wonder it has way more equipment than other NATO militaries. But Poland, which is 35 times smaller economy-wise, is getting almost as many. It's not just the 506 or so Himars systems, which basically matches the currently announced plans from the US, but Poland has another multiple rocket launcher system in store. In September 2023, Poland also signed an agreement with South Korean Hanwha to develop the HOMAR-k system. That multiple rocket launcher system is to use Polish trucks and jointly developed launcher kits and missiles. It's an addition to a previous agreement which already saw Poland receive the first Korean K239 Chunmoo system. 288 such systems will be produced for Poland. It's a heavier system than Himars and carries 2 6-missile pods, sort of like the US MRLs. The truck carrying it is also a larger 4-axle variant of the Yelts truck, compared to the 3-axle truck carrying the Himars launchers. Each pod can house either 239mm missiles, slightly larger than the missiles Himars uses, which are of 227mm diameter, or it can use a large ballistic missile instead, or it will be able to use many smaller 122mm rockets, which will be produced in Poland. South Korean 239mm missiles are very similar to the US Gimlers used by Himars. They use satellite guidance and have a range of 80 kilometers. Now, all those are massive numbers, and it's possible Poland will not go through with procuring both 500 US and 300 South Korean systems, just like the US Army may not ultimately get 500 more Himars. But it's still looking like a possibility. If it does go through with it, Poland might actually have both more launcher systems and more missiles ready to launch than the US, come 2030 or so. Satellite-guided artillery missiles like those used by Himars seem to have proven their worth in last year's operations, so it's no wonder many countries around the world are seeking more of them. Poland is just a very extreme example. Even if it ultimately doesn't quite reach US numbers, it's on a course to field more rocket systems per capita than any other country in the world, including US, Russia and China, and do it by a wide margin. Will such numbers help Poland in future wars? That's still unknown. Satellite-guided artillery missiles are today used like snipers, perhaps firing entire salvo at once only when the target is actually a sprawling set of high-value targets, or when enemy anti-missile defenses are robust enough that a missile or two would not get through. With numbers mentioned for Poland, saturating the enemy would hardly be an issue. There is virtually no air defense network in the world that could afford to defend against hundreds of such missiles fired at once. The issue might be jamming the satellite navigation signal. That has occurred in Ukraine at times, but again, jammers are almost exclusively ground-based and are not effective when missiles are high up, nor far away. So it's a method of somewhat degrading precision, which can again be partially mitigated by sheer numbers of missiles fired. Also in war, front lines tend to be long and deep. No one can afford to cover all the targets with jammers. More often than not, satellite-guided missiles would get through. Perhaps a bigger issue is one of target allocation. Having 500 launchers is great, but even if just 300 are used actively on the front line, that means 300 target sets are required perhaps every day to fully utilize those launchers. there may not be enough high-value targets out there daily. Certainly, Poland doesn't have the recon assets and target processing capabilities to find hundreds of targets per day deep inside enemy territory. So what may happen is that Polish missiles will much more often be used on the very front line, for direct support against enemy bunkers, trucks, trenches, and so on, called into action by forward units and not by some higher-up command. That's a valid choice too, sure, but at that point one starts to wonder if a similar effect could be achieved by using much cheaper unguided rounds, or even cheaper artillery-guided rounds, like for example the Excalibur tube artillery round. It's also possible though that Poland and US are in this together, where Poland will be the effector firing the missile, and the US will be the party which finds and chooses targets. It still all depends on the number of missiles available. Himars' contract mentioned tens of thousands of missiles. While that may seem like a lot, 500 Himars launchers can use 3,000 missiles in one go in theory. The entire US Army and Marine Corps had some 55,000 missiles before Ukraine happened. Current production rate, which is being increased, is well over 10,000 a year. But still, if Poland gets, say, 30,000 Gimler's missiles for their Himars, that's gonna be enough for 10 reloads, possibly expended in just a few weeks of a high-intensity war, given the number of launchers available. The US, before the war, had some 60 or so missiles stockpiled per launcher pod, enough for just 6 reloads. So it remains to be seen if Poland will really be getting much bigger missile numbers. Still, Poland is surging ahead militarily. Missiles-wise, it may even match the US, or if the US goes a different route, it may even slightly surpass it. And remember, Binkov may talk about war, but only real peace can bring us all together.